is that it's fine to listen to people like me or other experts about what's working, what's not, but it's even more important that you just experiment for yourself and take everything with just, you know, a grain of salt, because at the end of the day, you're going to know your brand and your customers the best. And don't be scared of just experimenting with different things and see what's, you know, working, what's not. I'm a big believer of sometimes the biggest creative comes from exactly going opposite what all the, you know, experts say. That's how we have innovation, and just, you know, play around with it, because it is the great thing about Instagram stories. It's only up for 24 hours, so it's not as permanent as a lot of the other content. My second tip then is going to be to understand the context of the platform. So even though Instagram stories is on Instagram, it is a little bit different than just putting content on the feed. So always understanding that there's subtle differences between, you know, all the different social media platforms, being Facebook, being Instagram, being Snapchat, being Twitter, and then even within the platforms themselves, when they have different features, we need to adjust our content a little bit. Again, the same as we do in normal relationships. Like when you go for, you know, a night out with your best friends, or you have, you know, dinner with your family, or you're going to meet, you know, your partner's parents for the first time, every time you're gonna be acting a little bit differently, just appropriate to the kind of, you know, context. And it's the same when we're, you know, dealing with social media platforms. So stories is a little bit different. So my best kind of, you know, tip, which let's go into, you know, tip 3, is just by kind of consuming content that you enjoy and like if you're watching stories, like, you know, keep an eye out. What is it that, you know, engages you? What do you like? What makes you swipe away? What makes you skip? All those little things on just your own consumer behavior. I'm a big fan of just, you know, being a focus group of one and just really monitoring your own behavior, and I'll give you a good indication, you know, what kind of content to put out. My biggest tip with Instagram stories though is really, you know, digging into content that you can create that is interesting for your customer and your audience, and that is also cross pointing with a passion that you or interest that you really have. So for example, if you are an accountant and you happen to have most of your business and most of your customers are business owners, and you've just noticed that a big portion of your customers are the most unorganized and terrible at time management, you know, which wouldn't be hard if your business owners were all pretty bad at time management, and you happen to be like an organization freak, you love it, you have little like calendars and bits and pieces everywhere and just super organized, and it's your passion and you love talking about it. I think that's a great opportunity to create content for, you know, your audience, especially in that kind of Instagram story environment, where I believe it's really about taking people kind of a bit behind the scenes and building that more one-on-one personal relationship. So for that example, if you're at home on a Sunday making your normal, you know, shopping list week because you're super organized and a freak, why not quickly jump on, you know, Instagram stories, record that content, you know, snap some of your, you know, different things that you're, you know, organizing and sharing it with your audience, because if you think that's something that they would find really valuable, I believe that's a really great, you know, piece of content to put out. My other tip with this as well is just always having a purpose for what you're trying to put your content out. So, you know, is it going to be entertaining? Are you wanting to provide, you know, value in the sense of education, information? Just, you know, are you wanting to let them know about certain things? Another really big tip is just remembering that you always have a purpose for whatever piece of content you're putting out. So are you wanting to entertain people? Are you wanting to provide, you know, a piece of information? Are you trying to instruct? Are you educating? Just be really clear of what you're, you know, trying to do and what value that actually brings to your customer. Because otherwise we can quite easily fall into the trap of just doing something that we think is going to be great, but our customer or audience is not really that, you know, interested in it. And my final tip, which is the cheesy tip that, you know, it gets overused so much, but that doesn't stop it from being true, which is just stay true to yourself. Stay true to your brand, stay true to what you believe in. Only put out content that you think really reflects who you are as a business, who you are as a person, and do not waver from that. Don't go with what you think is going to get more engagement, but you're not 100%, you feel it, you think it's maybe a little bit cheesy or it's maybe a little bit off. Don't, you know, go there. It's just not worth it. Like, whatever you can gain in the short term is always going to be way more damaging in the long term. And it's just how you feel about it. Like, if you feel good about what you're putting out, you're always going to get that back. So stay true to yourself. And now let's dig into the real tactical stuff.